It's lucky number 13 for leading off, as tonight, ESPO and I will run through our baseball news, plus ESPO will give his pick of the day, the ESPO TD. But more importantly, we welcome a special guest to the show. Chat regular and leading off superfan Corey Favaloro joins the program to talk about the best father and son duos in baseball. We got Father's Day coming up Sunday, so why not a better bracket than that? Then we end the program with a Who Am I on tonight's edition of Leading Off. And once again, we are live. This is episode number 13 of Leading Off, live from Studio 69 in New Jersey and REM Studio in Staten Island, New York, airing exclusively on Twitch and powered by StreamYard. And welcome back to the show on this Monday, June the 14th, 2021. I'm your host, Rich Rivera, and I'm being joined by a picker, a grinner, a lover, and a sinner, ESPO.
That might have been your best intro yet, Rich. As always, pleasure to be leading off with you.
I know you love a little Steve Miller, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a joker and a smoker, but most definitely not a midnight toker. Anyways, welcome to the show indeed.
And welcome back, folks. June the 14th, 2021, a little past 7 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm your host, Rich Rivera, as always, ESPO, of course. Now, make sure to follow us on YouTube. I want to throw that out here. And I actually want to tell you guys, and maybe more apologize than anything, because I always say, like, hey, all our episodes are out on YouTube, is actual bullshit. I actually haven't put out every single episode of Leading Off yet. I've been behind in the game, so I'm going to say it this way. Leading Off episodes will become available on YouTube as they are uploaded. Obviously, it takes a little bit longer of a process than just simply clicking a button. So, yes, as they become available, Leading Off full episodes will be up on YouTube. So, in the meantime, still share, like, and subscribe. So, I just wanted to get that out there because after people asking me, hey, where was last week's episode? I was like, I'm a lazy fuck, and I forgot to put it up. So, it's going to go up eventually. So, you will see it. You'll get the notification if you follow. So, it'll, whatever, ring the bell, whatever the fuck kids say, and it will show up. And then you'll get to watch our past episodes of Leading Off. So, ESPO, we had another weekend of baseball. But before we even get into baseball, how was your weekend?
It was quite awesome. It was a robust weekend of drinking beverages. Probably the most I've gone out in probably since the start of the pandemic. So now I'm kind of back in drinking shape. So cheers to that.
And I'll cheers to that. And honestly,
this is a baseball podcast, by the way. This isn't a drinking podcast. But
this is not a drinking podcast. Unfortunately, needed my shirt to open up this thing, which is sad because my beer supply is very poor at Studio. Sorry, I was going to say Studio 69. That's you. REM Studio here in Staten Island. So unfortunately, I'm drinking this stupid fucking Seagram's Jamaican Me Happy, which is not going to Jamaican me drunk because this thing is like fucking light as shit on alcohol content, 3.2%. Not good. So I'm going to
You know what's Jamaican me happy though, Rich? I'll tell you.
Oh, no.
The first place New York Mets. Gotta mention it, Rich. As long as we're there, I'm gonna be promoting that. And again, I'm having some trouble hearing and seeing AL East standings. You want to just go there for me real quick?
All right, folks, it's now time for Ducks on the Pond, our news piece where we talk about everything happening in the MLB world as far as news and notes are concerned. We always started off with injuries, of course, because injuries suck. And thanks for segueing a bad, Yankee note with their record because they suck. But we're going to get right into injuries. Luis Severino, who last week I was talking about how he was a rehab start away or a couple of rehab starts away from possibly being at the AAA level already because he's progressing so well. Saturday, he's on the mound for Hudson Valley, and then he pulls his fucking groin. So if there's any consolation, at least it's unrelated to the Tommy John that he's recovering from with his elbow, but he did come up lame on a groin injury, seemingly early in the game. I think it was on his plant. They said he was going for an MRI. I believe it was on Sunday, but there wasn't any results yet for it. So those are still pending, those results. Hopefully it is not as serious, but nonetheless, it is a setback for Luis Severino and the New York Yankees.
Right. I mean, on the bright side, it is not related to the Tommy John recovery, but groin injuries, they tend to linger for significant periods of time. Those the soft tissue injuries. So it definitely sucks for Severino and the Yankees. But at the same time, I mean, as a Yankee fan, how much were you really expecting out of him this season? Like, were you really relying on him to come back later this season, give you significant innings down the stretch and potentially in October, just based off of his injury history?
No. And actually, I've made this note multiple times. If it's not been on this show, it's on Savages in the Bronx, which actually does not have an episode later on tonight. We'll talk more about that later. I've talked about it many times. I was not expecting Luis Severino to jump right into the starting rotation and get thrown to the wolves, despite the limited arms the Yankees have out there. I was expecting this guy to maybe enter more of a long relief role, bullpen spot role, in the hopes that, hey, listen, by the time he comes around, maybe you see Kluber back, maybe the Yankees get another arm, maybe they're more reliant on younger guys like Deivi Garcia. And then Severino's not, I guess, thrown into this starting rotation role off the rip. And if he is, it's only going to be a limited kind of deal. You see where a nice comparison I make to Luis Severino is the San Diego Padres pitcher, Dinelson Lamet, who's been dealing with injuries all season long. And right now the Padres have been working on this innings limit with him throughout the season. He's been going only 2 innings, 3 innings. So he's just trying to like slowly building himself back up. And that's kind of the role I would have seen the Yankees smartly would have made Luis Severino pending his return. But obviously this is a setback. It's a bad setback for him. So hopefully it is not as serious as it seems. And, hopefully you'll see this guy at this rate by August. So it does suck for Yankee fans. Now,
I wonder if there was a prop bet made, who comes back first, Severino or Syndergaard? Doesn't look like anyone's going to win that. Well, Severino probably will, but
Severino probably
for either guy.
Yeah. Also, additional injury note that just happened before the show, so I didn't have time to throw it into the ticker. Shane Bieber also placed on the injured list, and I guess that's news to ESPO because I looked at his face and he's shocked right now. 10-day injured list due to a right shoulder subscapularis muscle strain.
What the fuck is this subscapularis? Is that like an Italian chicken dish? With the chicken subscapularis, please. I mean, fuck me. Shane Bieber to the IL. That was my first round pick in fantasy, man. I am.
Yeah. So Bieber is now on the IL. Another big pitcher going down for Cleveland, who was also missing Zach Plesac for a bit. So not good for the Tribe. Shane Bieber, the reigning Cy Young Award winner, on the mend.
This is why I drink, Rich. Injuries are they're just a bitch, man. No matter what fantasy sport you're playing, they can cripple you. I mean, obviously they're bad for the real life implications of the real life team.
Of course, yes.
Of course as well.
Andrew Benintendi also on the IL with a right rib injury. Steven Matz.
He's playing better as of late, I'll tell you.
And he has.
Kind of a slow start, but he's been a good pickup for them, and
I wasn't going
to be a long-term piece.
I wasn't going to make a lot of notes on Benintendi, but he's been a nice pickup for Kansas City. Not looking like, obviously, we're not knowing what kind of player Benintendi is. I don't know if he's at. He's
kind of such an uncertain player. You don't know what to make.
We don't know if he's in the prime of his career right now. So, we're not sure if the numbers he's putting up is the numbers we should be expecting from Benintendi. But so far, with Kansas City, 283 batting average, 8 homers, 31 RBIs in a year that's been not great for bats. Not bad for Benintendi, though. So good for him. Steven Matz
flies under the radar in Kansas City a bit, but not on this show. We'll be following you, Benny. Benny, what's his nickname? Benny Two Bet? No.
Benny Two Bet?
Biceps. Benny Biceps. That was
Benny Biceps.
Right.
Somebody's two bags who's a Boston
22 guy. Bags.
Doesn't matter because Throbby D is the best fucking nickname coming out of the Red Sox. So Steven Matz, COVID-19 IL. Max Muncy, right oblique strain, also 10-day IL for him. We move on to our next note because obviously we can go through injuries. And the funny part about injuries too, Espo, I don't love injuries, obviously, but when it comes to big injuries and whatever, these weird injuries, I figure out, I find out about a new body part, every time I read
it. What about the subscapular? I don't even know what that is. But
I don't know what the fuck these things are, but they're part of the human body. And that's crazy to me. Also, another injury note, because he is a listener of this show and we send him our best well wishes. My buddy, Andrew Corey, who came down and played softball with us on Sunday. He slid into third base weird after hitting his second triple of the day. Had a monster performance for us on Sunday. Broke his tibia on his slide. So recovery time for him is going to be 3 to 4 months. He's set for surgery on Wednesday, and that is your Ball Busters injury report.
Andrew, if you're listening, you should sue Rich Rivera for personal injury. Call 188-Selena and Barnes. Thank you.
I know. I probably just broke some mad HIPAA doing that, but whatever. We break HIPAA on leading off.
We will not promote that at all. We break hips from doing hip punches or whatever. Okay, moving on.
Shout out to my man Core, and we wish for the best in your recovery as well. All right, MLB All-Star Game voting ballots are opened. Which I made note of last week, but I actually had no idea they had 2 phases of the ballot now, which is brand new, Espo. The first phase actually determines the final, I believe it's the final 3 players of each infield position and the final 9 for the outfield, and then the final 3 for the DH. So whoever the best of the best are then gets voted into phase 2. So then that's how you pick out the starter. So it's a brand new way of voting for the All-Star Game, which is completely useless nowadays to baseball, but it's still cool to be a part of. So yeah, they kind of changed the voting process, which is, I guess, is different. And
I think it makes it better. I mean, I think it takes out the fans being stupid and voting in players from their own team that don't deserve it. Looking at you, Giants and Royals fans over the years.
But that doesn't really stop fans from voting in their favorite players. I guess it just it
makes it harder.
It betters the process a bit from getting them in from like one phase to another. So
right, just more vetting goes into it, I guess. But
yeah, I guess so. Very weird, but I just wanted to make a note on that. Last piece here, and again, real quick note because he stinks. Texas Rangers released Chris Davis this past weekend.
Davis.
157 batting average for him in 22 games, I believe. Or what do I have on the ticker? Come on, 22 games. So yeah, he stinks. He got released by Texas after that trade that happened over the offseason. Elvis Andrus going from the Rangers to Oakland. So
what happened to that dude, Chris Davis, man? He fell off a cliff.
That was the same guy who I think for like 4 seasons in a row had the same
247, hit 247 for 3 years in a row. I love that stat. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Amazing too. That's actually a fucking incredible stat. And the fact that he came close actually in 2014 to getting that 247 mark. So 244 in 2014, then 247, 247, 247, 247 from 2015 to 2018 in 2 different leagues, in 2 different divisions. And he had 392 at bats in 1 year, 555, 566, 576. So he didn't have like all this time off between like at bats either. Like that's an insane stat for a legendary run. That's amazing. And he did hit 48 home runs in 2018, which is only 3 years ago. So, hey, listen, Chris Davis could be a pickup for another team that needs a right-handed bat that can potentially play a corner outfield spot or be a DH somewhere. So, you never know with these guys. Hey, look at Albert. Albert's been doing pretty well with the Dodgers since they picked him up. So, you never know with these veteran guys sometimes.
We'll see. K-Riss Davis. I don't know why I called him K-Riss. But I guess I like to differentiate him from Chris Davis on the Orioles, so start it with a K instead. But
poor fucking other Chris Davis too. He stinks too, and he used to be okay. And now he's really, really bad.
Tough luck for the Davis brothers, huh?
Very bad. All right, we're gonna finally get up Ducks. That was a lot. But you can listen to Savage in the Bronx on Twitch, which is my Yankee show. However, tonight's episode it won't be happening because my co-host sucks and he's not available. No, I'm kidding. He
load management.
He is legit not available. But next week we'll be back for a brand new episode of Savage in the Bronx. So if you are a huge Yankee fan or you just like talking about the Yankees or like shitting on the Yankees like my co-host does, check us out because we like shitting on the Yankees too. Live 8:00 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch every Monday except for tonight. So we'll be back next week to ring in the first day of summer on June 21st.
Hell
but
yeah.
for now, and I wish we had a jingle for this, it is now time for the ESPO TD.
We'll get there. We'll make a jingle. We need
the
to.
ESPO pick of the day. I don't know. ESPO pick of the day, where ESPO is going to give us his fantasy pick with more of a betting line. But ESPO, you know what? This is your baby, so you carry this, and I'll hang out and have a drink.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first official ESPO TD. Last week was a bit of a trial run. I did suggest Ronald Acuna to hit a home run, which worked out very well, but didn't really make it an official gambling pick. So This week, we're putting a reputation on the line. We're going Mets Cubs over 8.5.
All right.
Tail it, folks. It's going to be a winner.
So
ESPO TD.
8.5. That was Mets over
Mets and Cubs.
Mets and Cubs. All right. So
I like the matchup just because the two pitchers, Arrieta and David Peterson, I mean, they're both having shit years. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Neither of them are getting any guys out. And I mean, just the way Peterson's looked the last few games, it's been brutal. So as a Mets fan, it's somewhat of a hedge against my happiness because if the Mets are going to win this game, it's probably going to be in a slugfest just because neither of these pitchers are doing particularly well right now.
Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Espo. I'm an amateur gambler at best. Not even. I'm probably a novice gambler. So a lot of these terms for me are it's like, I don't know, it's Spanish to a Puerto Rican. That doesn't make sense. But no, that does not make sense at all. But hey, I don't really understand a lot of the gambling terms. So you said 8.5 Mets Cubs. Right. So you're saying that the run differential will be over between those two. So it could potentially be a fucking 10-2 game.
No. So
right, Matt.
With the over, when you pick the over under, you're picking the aggregate combined score of both teams. So I'm predicting that the combined score of both teams tonight will be over 8.5. So
okay.
Let's say it's like a 5-4 Mets win, or like they win.
Yeah, and then you're good.
3, then it goes over. But say if it's the Cubs win 4-2, then it would lose. So
there you go.
I'm putting my reputation on the line. I'm officially 0-0, but let's go over.
Let's go over, and I like that. Okay, yeah, and Peterson, Arrieta, like you mentioned, not good seasons for them. Peterson can win you that fucking aggregate right there with the way he's been pitching.
He might do it himself. I hope not. I hope the Mets can do some damage off Arrieta, but we'll see. We'll see.
Now that 8.5 was that DraftKings? Like where'd you get that?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Now I operate on both DraftKings and FanDuel because it's nice to have kind of a diversity of options when it comes to your bets. But yes, that was DraftKings. So
the ESPO TD unofficially brought to you by DraftKings.
Yes,
that unofficially brings you leading off.
And Dogfish Head IPA.
Dogfish Head IPA and fucking Seagrams. For an amateur gambler comes an amateur drink. So.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, brother. All right, let's move on. Twitter handles, as always, you can follow Leading Off at LOff Podcast. You can follow Espo at
The Life of Espo.
And you can follow me, as always, at Rich J. Rivera. But you can follow our guest at G Gorey. That's Gorey. Also on Twitter. This man is very familiar to the program. He is a constant in the Leading Off and Savages in the Bronx Twitch chats, which, of course, I see a bunch of you guys are commenting in already, and thank you guys for it. He's a huge Mets fan and loves nothing more than kicking back with a brew, just like your boys here, Espo and Rich. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Corey Favaloro joins us on Leading Off. What's up, Corey?
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for having me today. Great to be here. I know going from the chat room to the main stage, big promotion. It's like getting the call up from AAA to the majors, and here I am. Gotta say, I'm joining you gentlemen both with the brew. I'm representing little Leinenkugel today, Summer Shandy, and I 100% agree with Espo's bet. 8.5, the over-under, very good pick for tonight. If this was David Pearson's start from 2 weeks ago versus the Diamondbacks, it would have been over in the first inning. So, yep, but should be a good one. Should be a good one. Let's see. I like the bet.
The Mets are going to cover it all on their own. Just you watch. 10-0.
There you go. There you go. And that wins Espo money right there. So there you go. All right. Corey joining us live and in living color. He has been a constant in our chat since episode number 1. So I want to thank you, of course, for all your support and love for not only Leading Off, but Savages in the Bronx. And this has been a long time coming. We talked about this early on back in the warm-up episodes of having you on for a show, and the opportunity presented itself. So here we are. Obviously, you're representing your Mets blue and orange.
First place.
But I have to ask, I don't know if I'm drunk off this 3.5%, whatever the fuck I'm drinking, but I don't know if I'm seeing double right now. Is that another Corey Favaloro in the background?
That very well is. The only way I was going to watch a Met game at Citi Field last year was through a cardboard cutout. So I did make multiple appearances. That was my first time having a full season plan at Citi Field. So that worked out very well. Great shout out to my friend Jason Deeger for the tickets. He was the one who got my cardboard cutout in the stadium. So me and him had nice seats. We were actually only a few rows back from home plate, so it ended up being better seats than normal. So it was great.
I was just going to ask you the quick story on it. So obviously you just mentioned you shout out your friend Jason. Shout out to Jason. So he had season tickets. So basically, if you had season tickets, you were eligible to get a cardboard cutout.
That's correct. Yep, they offered it to the season ticket holders. I think eventually there was a certain period for the season ticket holders, and then they opened it up to the general public just to fill whatever was remaining. And I think when it got to the general public, that's when like the price became a factor. I think it was free for the season ticket holders, and then small amount if you wanted to buy as a general public.
Not for nothing, too. Looking at it, it looks like a professional photo. It looks like what a player would take in spring training. Like that background, like LinkedIn status.
Again, right?
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
All right, so let's shift the focus. Let's talk about your Mets. As Espo has mentioned multiple times, to my chagrin, they are a first-place team in the National League East. So how are you feeling about this team right now and moving forward?
Sorry, I just wanted to make that aware for our viewers.
Yep. No, but listen, let me tell you, this has been a fun year. You throw in the fact that we're also coming back to a full year of baseball after taking most of last season off. Last year was really a discounted season. So having a full season right now, really going with the bench mob attitude. One of the biggest things I loved about the Mets this offseason, aside from obviously getting now the richest owner in the game, was the amount of depth pieces they added. They added a lot of depth to that lineup, and that's one thing they really lacked in the last 5 to 10 years was depth. And in the last month or so, we've seen them go through that depth and bring up guys that, honestly, there was a couple of them I never heard of until they made their first plate appearance as a Met. So definitely
Billy McKinney, baby.
Billy
McKinney.
Bombs. Billy McKinney. Definitely got a few others in there as well. But I love this bench mob attitude. It's literally next man up. Reminds me of the Yankees a few years ago when they made the playoffs with that team. It's when Gio first got the call up. It's similar vibes. Love the team. Love the energy. And even if they don't make a big move at the deadline, which they should, that's a whole different discussion. Their deadline acquisition is going to be the guys, the Confortos, the McNeils, maybe Syndergaard, maybe Carrasco, all coming back. I can't wait. I love it.
You sound like Sandy Alderson when you say that.
Love it. And you mentioned it, man. The depth pieces have been a big cog for this Mets team. The combo of Jonathan Villar and Kevin Pillar. It gets confusing sometimes with the Pillar VR. Jonathan Villar and Kevin Pillar and fucking Billy McKinney and not Cameron Maven, who unfortunately was part of that next man mentality, like you mentioned with the Yankees a few years ago. So yeah, you have that, and it's great to see it. And it goes to show that, hey, listen, without these big cogs in our lineup, and even with the guys we have right now that are struggling, we can still hang with the big boys.
Exactly.
So it's a great mentality that they're having right now.
Yep, very fun season.
It helps having number 48 on the hill every fifth day too.
Oh yeah.
I know it's kind of obvious, but we have to acknowledge it. The guy is just a god on the baseball field.
Oh yeah. Arguably,
as Mets fans, but we're not biased as baseball watchers. What can't this guy do? It's
incredible. And not only are you getting the potential of a shutout every day, but the guy's hitting 400. And talk about the advantage in the NL. I know this won't even be a discussion next year when the DH comes, but you have a guy who's hitting 400. I think he has more RBIs or almost as many RBIs as he does runs allowed as a pitcher. Absolutely insane. The guy is all around great. Love watching him. I've seen Piazza play, obviously. I think DeGrom's the best player on the Mets, at least that I've seen in my lifetime.
There you go. Wow.
I agree.
Espo, you concur? Wow, you do.
I concur.
Jacob deGrom, a .56 ERA through 10 games, 6-2, but we don't really give a shit about wins and losses anymore in this day and age of baseball. Like, this guy will go in the Hall of Fame one year, and he'd be lucky if he has 150 to 200 wins.
Might be the lowest number of wins for any Hall of Fame pitcher. It's quite possible.
Very possible. Considering the game started to win ratio, I could definitely see that being one of the lowest.
Des Dutch in the chat goes, "Let's go Mets." And then we have a mutual buddy of Corey and I's, Estorado 13, Steve, says, this is the sexiest guy you have ever had. My God. And he put in a cobra emoji of sorts, a snake emoji of sorts. So there you go, Steve. Thank you. But yes, Corey's joining us, but he's here for a big reason. And actually, I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes. I'm peel back the curtain a little bit because, yeah, obviously, Espo and I, we talk about these shows, in advance, and we talk about how we're going to get these shows together, if we're going to do brackets and whatnot. And guess what? Tonight's idea of this bracket was brought to you by our very own guest, Corey Favaloro. So, Corey, thank you very much for this great idea.
Executive producer.
Yep.
Yeah, executive producer, at least for episode number 13 of Leading Off. But our bracket tonight, brought to you by Corey, is who is the best father-son duo in baseball history. And it's very timely because Father's Day is coming up this Sunday. So obviously we're going to spend the day with our dads and have a great time there, or grandfathers or whatnot. Or if you're dads yourselves, I don't know if you're a dad, but if you're dads yourself, you're not sure if you're a dad either. So that's
no, I am not, and I won't be anytime soon. Let the record state.
Whoever you're celebrating Father's Day with, hope you guys enjoy. But we're going to enjoy Father's Day 6 days early with our bracket tonight of the best father-son duo in baseball history. So there was a lot of combos to go through, and some even trios at that. So let's get into it. I seeded this thing for the first time, by the way. All the years I've been doing brackets since my discussion midnight days back when, I've never seeded them. This is actually the first time I've actually seeded tonight's bracket. So let's go and start this off with our number one seed, the Griffies. And they are. Actually, let me get rid of this little thing here. Boom. The Griffies. Obviously, you got Ken and Kent. Great career for senior, Hall of Fame career for junior. And their matchup in the number 8 seed, the Tatises, Fernando and Fernando. So obviously the names were not really original on each front, but you have the Kens versus the Fernandos, the Griffies versus the Tatises. Corey, who you taking here?
Let me tell you, I just want to make a comment on the Tatises because I feel like we are not going to be mentioning them much more the rest of the show. The Tatises, again, great baseball family. Tatis Sr., very useful player for the Mets in the late 2000s. Tatis Jr., going to get his first All-Star appearance this year, no doubt about it. This is a no contest. We're going with Griffey Jr. and Griffey Sr. They're the number ones for a reason. Tatis Sr., as much as I love the guy, might be one of, statistically at least, the worst players we have in this bracket. Still a great player, but no contest. 1 seed wins.
Espo.
I'm in agreement with Corey here. This is a unanimous decision for the Griffies. I mean, Fernando Tatis Sr., couple good years with the Mets, but not that Ken Griffey Sr. was the best player ever, but for this to be close, think about what Fernando Tatis Jr. would have to do. He would literally have to become one of the best players of all time, which possible, but right now it's not a reality. So Griffey's.
And I'll have a note on Ken Sr. in a little bit as we move him on into the next round. Next, we have the Alomars. I said there could be a trio in there, and there is a trio in there. So there you go. You got Sandy Alomar Sr., Jr., and Roberto Alomar, obviously the one Hall of Famer of the 3. And their matchup is the Fielders, Cecil and Prince, or Cecil and Prince. I don't know if it's Cecil or Cecil. I don't know.
Cecil, tomato.
But that's our matchup. We got the Alomars or the Fielders. Corey, who you taking?
I'm going to go with the Fielders. This is a very close matchup. I do think Roberto Alomar is the best player in this bracket pool. I just think the combination of the Fielders, father and son duo, outdoes the duo of Sandy Alomar Sr., and Roberto Alomar. Also interesting fun fact, both Cecil and Prince, 319 home runs. That's very funny that you have a father and son with the same home run totals. Would have loved to see Prince play a lot longer. It's a shame he had all those injuries. Those numbers would probably be a lot higher than 319 if he stayed healthy. But I'm going to go in a very, very close matchup, despite the one Hall of Famer being in the other side of the bracket. I'm going to go with Cecil and Prince.
Wow. Brilliant research there, Corey. Espo, what do you got?
Man, this is tough for me, but I think I'm going to have to diverge from Corey here and go with the Alomar trio. Despite the great accolades of Fielder, father and son, I just kind of like the overall track record and resume of all 3 Alomar generations combined here. So definitely one of our tougher matchups for sure.
Fun fact on Roberto and Sandy Alomar, which I did not know, they actually started their career in the same year. They started in 1988. Look at that. I'm going with the Fielders, though. Cecil Fielder was an absolute fucking unit and he was like monster numbers from
Prince was an absolute unit back as a kid when
obviously, but
playing.
unit from 1990 to 1990. Fucking, what am I looking at? I'm still going down here. 1996, he was putting over 28 home runs at least the season, and Prince was on his way, arguably, to a Hall of Fame career if he had stayed healthy. I hate to just base it off potential, whatnot, but as far as the combined efforts go of the father-son, I am more akin to go with the fielders, although I don't think the fielders are going to go far in this bracket. But I'm going with the fielders here, so I am in agreement with Corey, and I love that 319 homer in each of their careers back. That was awesome. All right, our next matchup here, comments are streaming them. Don't worry, I'll catch up to them soon. We have the Alus coming in at the number 3 seed, Felipe and Moises, and then their matchup, Vladdy and Vladdy, the Guerreros, that are number 6 seed. The Alus versus the Guerreros. As I read our Twitch chat, Corey, who's our pick?
This, I think, was the most intriguing of all the matchups. As much as I did like the last one with the Alomars and the Fielders, the Alou family, one of the most respected baseball families in the history of baseball. The 3 Alou brothers back in the early part of the century, Felipe Alou, Matty Alou, Jesus Alou, 3 solid players right there. You throw in Moises Alou. Also, fun fact, Luis Rojas, also a son of Felipe Alou, half brothers with Moises. Great family. Felipe, 3-time All-Star. Moises Alou, 6-time All-Star. Also part of one of the infamous plays in baseball, or non-plays, I should say, back with the Cubs way back when. But comparing them to the Vlads, Vlad Jr. and Sr. Vlad Sr. personally is probably my favorite non-Met to ever play baseball. Loved watching him hit the ball over the fence at a ball that bounced to the plate. The guy could hit anything, literally anything. 9-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, MVP. Vlad Jr. is leading the league right now in home runs. Granted, still too young to see how his whole career progresses, but like what I see thus far. As much as I love and respect the Alou family, love them, I'm going with the Vlads and my favorite player to not play with the Mets, Vlad Jr. and Sr.
Love it. Where did you get that bobblehead, Corey?
Oh, these I got all these McFarlane figures way back in like middle school, high school. I was a huge fan of the McFarlanes. I got a couple of them in display case, and just love very detailed figures.
Love it.
Get it into a whole conversation about Todd McFarlane figures, because I had a collection of them back in the day, and then Todd slipped off the game a little bit. The figures aren't as good anymore. But so you went with the Guerreros, which is a surprise. But you know what? It's not a bad idea going with a Hall of Famer. I'm curious what ESPO is going to pick right now. Are you going to diverge from Corey again here?
This again was a very tough matchup. But I'm going to have to go with the Guerreros as well. The Alus, a great baseball dynasty, yes, but I'm not only looking at the kind of the present value of the list here, but also the future value. And when I look at this bracket, there's no greater future value than in this one with Vlad Guerrero, already a Hall of Fame player, the father, and the son's got a chance to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, I think there's just way too much upside with Vlad Jr. The best is yet to come, and he's already, like you said, leading the league in home runs. So we will, when it's all said and done, this is going to be the best duo, I think.
And a shout out to my buddy AJ, another mutual buddy of Corey and I. You have a lot of mutual buddies, who had a prediction that the Alus would go far in this bracket. AJ, you are wrong. The Alus got knocked out. Our last matchup here of the first round, we have the Bichettes coming in at the number 7 seed, Dante and Bo. And finally, our number 2 seed, the Bonds is Barry and Bobby. That is our matchup there. Corey, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not as big of a blowout as I would say the number 1 and number 8 matchup, but it's pretty close. I'm going with the Bonds here. I mean, you're going with a father who was a 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove, still hit over 300 home runs. Barry Bonds, you know what? Steroids, so be it. The guy was a monster at the plate. Mm-hmm. And this is no knock on the Bichettes. Father, phenomenal player, 4-time All-Star. And his son, Bo, looks like he's down the same path. It looks like he's going to have multiple All-Star games over the course of his career. It's still too early to see where he ends up. I think if we did this bracket 10 years from now, they might be a higher ranking than number 7. But it's basically a no contest. It's the Bonds.
Yeah, this is a unanimous decision here. I'm going with the Bonds as well. And again, my Coors reference there was a little bit of a knock on Dante Bichette. He did play a lot of good part of his career in Coors, so I'm knocking him down a slight notch there. But again, Bo's got a lot of upside. Could be a Hall of Fame player, but I mean, both of the Bonds, father and son, and mostly for the same team, no less. They both had a lot of great years in San Francisco, so that's a very cool element, is that they both did it in the same city for the same team.
Now, speaking of guys who had played for the same team and even played on the same team and had one of the coolest, actually, I'll put it this way. I think it is the coolest accomplishment to ever happen on a baseball field. The fact that Ken Jr. and Ken Sr. played for the same team in Seattle and homered in the same game.
Wasn't out back to back? Yeah.
Back to back is one of the fucking coolest things to ever happen. It's almost mythological in a way. So our semifinal matchup here in the first, our first of two here, we got the Griffies and we got the Fielders. So what we got here? Who's going to the finals?
Again, this is definitely a pretty good matchup. Again, the Fielders, over 600 home runs combined. Again, if Fielder was healthier longer, those numbers would be a lot higher. But if the numbers are higher for Griffey Jr. In terms of staying healthy, those numbers would not be 630 home runs. We might be talking the home run champion. We'd be talking more than 13 All-Star appearances. Astronomical career. And again, Cecil and Griffey Sr., I think that might be a push. But even so, I think I'd probably still go Griffey Sr. over Cecil. I'm going with the Griffies.
The only scenario in which the Fielders are beating the Griffies in a bracket is if it's hamburger eating. This is going to be a blowout. And
they're fat shame the Fielders, you fuck.
I'm sorry. It was low-hanging fruit, but
the
Griffies are taking this one easy. And I mean, I like your point there, Corey, of what could have been with Griffey. If he stayed on Griffey Jr., that is, if he stayed on the field, we'd be talking about possibly 800 home runs. So, factoring in the actual accomplishments and potential upside, it's still the Griffies in a landslide.
In a B question that we have to have a whole probably episode about, like, who would have had the greatest career if they had not gotten hurt between Ken Griffey Jr. and Mickey Mantle? That's a B question down the line, because
don't forget World War II. That's a whole other element to throw in too.
Very good point. All right, our next matchup here in the semis, we have our number 6 seed, the Guerreros, versus the number 2 seed, the Bonds.
Yeah, this is a matchup here. Again, this is definitely this is closer than the Griffies and the Fielders for sure. But again, I'm going with the Bonds. I'm going with the favorite here. As much as I loved Vlad Sr. and as good as Vlad Jr. looks in baseball today, I don't think Vlad Jr. is going to surpass Bonds in terms of home runs. And you look at Bobby Bonds, he was no slouch. I mean, the guy hit 332 home runs. The guy was a 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove. Definitely no slouch, even though Vlad Sr., arguably the third best player in this bracket pool. Bonds is arguably the best player in the pool. I'm going with the Bonds.
Man, this is by far the toughest matchup of the entire bracket for me. I mean, talk about star power on both sides, both with the father and the son. Maybe this is a shocker, but I'm gonna go with the Guerreros here. So, Rich, we may need you to be the tie-breaking vote. For me, looking at the Guerreros, I think Vlad is significantly better than Bonds, the right term. But for me, I think he is significantly better than Bonds Sr. So in that regard, I don't need Vlad Jr. to be a better player than Barry Bonds. I just need him to be a Hall of Famer. I don't need him to be the best player of all time, but I would feel comfortable forecasting Vlad Jr. for the Hall of Fame. So I'm taking the Guerreros.
I actually can't believe I'm splitting this, because I thought this would be a no-brainer to send them to the finals. I'm going with the Bonds still. Yes, obviously the biggest variable between these two, as you just mentioned, Vlad Sr. is the Hall of Famer. Bonds is not. Will he be a Hall of Famer? Debatable. Obviously, we know the controversy surrounding that. His final election year is coming up. It's going to be crazy. Barry Bonds, as M took 45, like they say here in the chat, hot take. Barry Bonds is the best player in MLB history. I'm not saying that, but he is definitely one of the best players in MLB history. I don't know if I can say the same thing for Vlad Sr. And I think that notion right there tells me where I need to go. Vlad Jr. is too early in his career for me to take him over Bobby or over what Barry did. Obviously, Vlad Jr., I hope for the best, and he's having this fucking great year. He's leading the league in home runs. He's off to a fantastic start to his career. But I'm going with the Bonds here. And it's tough because the Vladdies, I say the Vladdies because they're both named fucking Vladimir. The Vladdies are right there. They're right there. And even though they came in at a 6 seed, I felt like they were going to be a tough matchup for whoever was going to take them on in the semis. So, yes, that was good that we split on that. But the Bonds move on to the finals.
We're going to come back to this one in 10 years, okay?
And before we get to our finals, some honorable mentions, because why not? I love honorable mentions. We'll talk about the Boons. We have like a fucking generation after generation of Boonses. Ray, Bob, Brett, Aaron, of course, the manager of the Yanks. You got to talk about the Boons. You got the Biggios in there, Craig and Kevin. Obviously, Kevin, obviously very green to the game. Craig Biggio, Hall of Famer, just missed it. The Bellingers, Cody and Clay, also a good mention there. Anybody else you guys want to throw out there that we didn't mention before?
Gotta go Tony Gwynn Sr. and Jr. Jr. wasn't anything special, but Tony Gwynn, one of the GOATs, of course. Maybe this one we'll be talking about in a couple of years. Al Leiter and Jack Leiter.
Yep.
Al, of course.
Oh, yes.
Great pitcher in New York, and Jack Leiter.
Perhaps not eligible for the bracket, but obviously
the next big thing. So we'll see.
Yep, definitely not eligible yet, but I agree that's an intriguing one. And a few years from now, no doubt, I have a feeling they would be on this list somewhere.
Underrated one: Tom Flash Gordon and D. Strange Gordon.
That's a good one.
Very underrated.
One more that wasn't on the list here: Jacob deGrom versus all opposing hitters. Okay, cool. Sorry.
Always got to be the mark for DeGrom. I got it. I get it. All right. Jacob DeGrom's the best pitcher in baseball. I get it. I understand.
Just let me have it, Rich. Damn it.
Finals. Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr. and Bobby Bonds and Barry Bonds. We have a case of the 1 versus the 2 seed. Who's taking the cake? Mr. Favaloro.
Listen, before I give you my pick, I just want to give a special shout out to Sincerely Alley. My pick brought to you by Sincerely Alley. Great scented candles, great selection. This particular one is a Core Bro exclusive, but she has many, many different types, many varieties. Definitely give her a look on Etsy.
Sponsor Savages in the Bronx, but we love to hear a shout out to Sincerely Alley here on Leading Off.
100%. But now, time for the pick. Time to get serious. This is a phenomenal matchup. This is the matchup. There's a saying right now today to let the kids play, and I have a similar saying to let the roids in. It's time. It's 2021. Let the roiders into the Hall of Fame. It was not illegal. When it became illegal, different story. Barry Bonds, home run leader. Guy, if I'm building a team of the best players in my lifetime, Barry Bonds is my left fielder 10 out of 10 times. Honestly, in center field, as much as I love Griffey Jr., it's a coin flip. Who am I going to put? Him or Trout? Coin flip. It's probably 6 out of 10 times I go Griffey. 4 out of 10 I'm going Trout. Barry Bonds is the best player. It's a disgrace, obviously, what happened with the whole Royd era, but it's time. Let the guy in. Let the guy in the Hall of Fame and let him be a part of the winner of this bracket. And Bobby Bonds compared to Griffey Sr., it's almost a push. Almost a push. I mean, you look at the numbers, they're both 3-time All-Stars. Griffey Sr. has more hits at 2143 as opposed to 1886. But the Bonds has double the home runs at 332 versus 152. You could say, I think the fathers are a push. You could say the Bonds and Griffey Jr. are a push. I'm going with the Bondses.
Espo, I'm going to make this a show because I'm actually going to disagree with my guest here. And I'm going to stick with the Griffeys here. What was the one variable we mentioned before in the Guerrero-Bonds matchup was the Hall of Fame mention. Obviously, I still went with Bonds over Guerrero. Griffey does have the Hall of Fame over Bonds. When Bonds get in, it's tough. It's tough. Then you have to get into the Griffey injuries. What if Griffey had a better career than Barry Bonds, even with the roids? It's a tough pull. But honestly, Ken Griffey Sr. is in the Hall of Very Good, and Bobby Bonds, to me, is not. I think Ken Sr.'s career is that much better. A 296 batting average across 19 years of playing. He played with 4 different organizations, the Reds mainly for 12 years. 303 batting average with the Reds. I mean, he was one of the greatest Cincinnati Reds of all time. Not one of the biggest home run hitters at 152. Obviously, Corey, you have me beat on home runs. Cannot touch that. I'm going with the Griffeys, though. I think the edge between the duo of the Griffeys just takes out the duo of the Bonzes, but it's so fucking close. So that's why I'm really curious who you're taking as your winner here between the number 2 seed, the Bonzes, the number 1 seed, the Griffies.
This is a lot of pressure, guys. I don't know if I could handle it. All great points from both of you, but to break this tie, I'm going to go with the Griffies.
Oh,
I got to go with the Griffies. I think the stats amongst all of them are very close. A clear home run advantage for Griffey Senior over Bonds Senior. I'm sorry, reverse that. But overall, I do think that Griffey Senior had the better career, and what it really comes down to for me is Barry Bonds versus Ken Griffey Jr. And we're coming down to the roids argument again, aren't we? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But if we're going to introduce what ifs as well, let's say Ken Griffey Jr. took steroids. Okay, if Ken Griffey Jr. took steroids, that man hits 1,000 home runs easy, and he probably stays on the field more, if we're being honest. So, all things being equal, if Barry Bonds on roids, Ken Griffey Jr. on roids, I'm taking Jr. Griffey Jr. off of roids, Bonds Jr. off of roids. Well, we've seen Bonds Jr. off of roids.
Well, the one thing too, Espo, is that Barry Bonds was not the only one on steroids. There are guys who were taking steroids in their career and it didn't help them that much. They didn't, obviously everybody's body is different. So, you don't know if Griffey is going to hit 1,000 home runs on steroids. He might as well could, but everybody's body, I feel like, reacts differently to it. So it's hard to say like, oh yeah, he would have this monster career on steroids. He might have had around the same career.
Yeah,
I'm not going to reward a cheater. Maybe he got the stats, but he's not winning this bracket.
Yep. I will say this. You could load me up on the most highest pharmaceutical grade HGH there is. I still won't get past T-ball. So let alone the majors.
Same.
When you can barely get past Sunday morning softball. But if you're just joining us, we do have Corey Favaloro on the line with us here, joining us live and in person, which is nice to see. He's been a reoccurring guest in our chat here on Twitch, on Savages in the Bronx, and leading off, of course. You can follow him on Twitter at GGorey, GGOREY. How'd you come up with that Twitter handle? I got to find out.
You know what? I don't know. It's close enough to the first name. Obviously, at Corey is not around, so it worked. It worked.
I'm glad I asked. Now I know. But anyway, it's now time for a segment we call Who Am I?, which usually is a segment that we have with Espo and myself. But hey, you know what? We have a guest on. So maybe it's time for Corey to take on this same challenge with us. So let's play the game of Who Am I with our buddy Corey Favs here, where, of course, Espo and I are going to try to stump each other, but now I get stump Corey as well on a former major leaguer or maybe current major leaguer based on a few clues, as will kind of give us an autobiography as if we are the player. So, Espo, who are you?
Who am I? Well, to start, I am a pitcher, so that narrows it down to about 10,000. I was originally drafted by the Braves in the mid-2000s and the Cubs. I was actually traded for Anthony Rizzo. I'm not sure if that might give it away. I was traded again in 2016 to Miami in a deal that saw Luis Castillo, the pitcher, get moved. I have also pitched for Baltimore and Boston.
Why am I drawing a blank so much on this?
All right, this one might give it away.
Okay.
I am a ginger.
Wait, why am I drawing a blank on this?
I am a bearded ginger.
What's his name?
Ryan Dempster? No?
No. What's his name?
My last name? This is going to give it away. My last name has to do with money.
Why am I drawing a blank on this?
I got to go to the deep end here.
Why am I drawing a blank on this?
Okay, I'm going to just go down the names of teams he's played for. Cubs, Padres, Marlins, Rangers, Orioles, Red Sox. Last pitched in 2019. He's a ginger. He was traded for Anthony Rizzo.
That's an interesting stat, too.
Who are you?
That's a big
ginger trade. Or the Rizzo trade?
No, who are you?
Oh, okay. Well, you guys are going to kick yourself. Andrew Kashner.
Andrew
I know, right?
Kashner.
What a random ass
my
pitcher,
God, that's
right?
a random one.
I know. I needed to go random after the last few. They were too easy.
Wow.
Wow, Andrew Kashner. The funny thing is, you mentioned the Padres too. I remember him on the Padres for a lot.
Dude,
for some
I
reason.
couldn't fucking get it. And nobody in the Twitch chat got it. M took 45, guessed John Gray. I don't know why, because he only played one team.
My biggest memory from Kashner, I think he pitched like a gem, like a complete game gem versus the Mets when he was a Padre.
Probably.
Yeah,
that seems like a very Met thing to happen.
Yep. I think the guy had like a 5 ERA and pitched a complete game shutout. So go figure. But that's baseball for you.
All right, this one will be a little bit more easier. That's, I guess, your first clue off the rip. So definitely more of a name than Andrew Kashner. But funny enough, did play for the Padres, the Dads, of course, with Father's Day. So here we go. I am a pitcher. I was born in 1981, and I was drafted by the Dads in the 1999 draft in the 15th round. Made my debut for the team in 2002. Went on to pitch in 3 All-Star games, 2 with the Padres, and 1 with an American League team. I am a Cy Young Award winner.
Jake Peavy.
Jake Peavy is correct. There you go, Corey. I am Jake Peavy. And had to go with a Padres player because obviously Dad's Day is Sunday, so I wanted to go with a dad. Nice. So Jake Peavy is my guy.
And he had some years, man.
He had some solid fucking years, and like at a point was one of the best pitchers, in baseball.
Middle 2000s, that dude was unhittable.
Dude, like before his 2007
maybe 08,
09, like he was tops in the league in ERA, 227 in 2004, 254 in 2007. He had a solid season with the White Sox in 2012, 337, where he was an all-star there, and a Gold Glover. Jake Peavy, who ended his career in 2016 with the Giants. That is our guy, and that's me. I'm Jake Peavy, and Espo, for whatever reason, is Andrew Kashner tonight. And Matt Zucker has guessed correctly, Jake Peavy. But it is time we end our show. The longest leading off that we've had since episode never, because it's the longest episode we've ever had at 52 minutes. But Corey Favaloro, you were a great guest, sir. We enjoyed having you on. We were happy to see your face on the program. So is there anybody you'd like to shout out, thank? This is your floor, buddy.
Obviously, I'm going to thank the both of you for having me here today. Thank you for making Mondays a little less miserable. It's always nice logging off of work and cracking open a cold one with the boys and just hanging out, talking baseball. So obviously you get my main shout out, both of you. And then to the fans, the fellow fans commenting over here. We usually have a good laugh or two in the chat box. We make things a little choochery. So it's nice. So thank you again to all the fans.
To all the fans out there, and especially the fan that we have on tonight's episode. Corey, we love that you support this show. We love your participation in our chat. We want to see more of it, obviously, and we will definitely have you on for another episode of Leading Off, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Serato, M-Took45, D Dutch, Expert Me, everyone else. Love you all. Peace out.
See you, bud.
Go Mets.
Corey Favaloro joining us for the first time on the program. And that opens the floor up for anybody. If you want to join our program and be a guest on the show, let us know. Tweet at us. DM me. Let me know. I'll call out everybody that wants to be on this show. You can be on this show if you want to. We open the floor to everybody. So obviously, Corey was great to have on, and we hope to see him in future shows down the line, in person, of course. But we're going to finish our show, Espo. Like I mentioned, longest episode leading off to date. Anybody you want to thank before we log off?
I'd like to thank the executive producer of the show, Rich Rivera. Always a fantastic production you put on, brother. Cheers. I'd like to thank the fam for tuning in as always, as well as any other friends that made themselves known in the comments section. But one more thing, Mom. I only bet $10, so don't worry. I'm okay. But
and you will
the
win.
Over is not. Over is in trouble. 0-0 in the second inning, so we're probably done. But
not good.
Oh well,
not good at all.
Hey,
I went dark on my screen.
Another day.
All right, buddy. Well, good luck. Hopefully you pull out the win on the ESPO TD. Can't wait to hear the next one next week. Then it'll be the first day of summer. So hopefully you guys enjoy the last days of spring heading into the weekend. And of course, all the dads out there, want to wish you a happy early Father's Day with the holiday coming up on Sunday. So I want to shout out my dad. I want to shout out Espo's dad. I want to shout out all your dads out there. Hope you guys enjoy the holiday, no matter how you spend it, whatever dad is. If you're a dad, happy Father's Day to you. So obviously enjoy the day. We'll see you guys here next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch. As always, take care.